I think we have this all set. Sorry, folks. I was doing a little bit of some issues, but I believe we have this all set. So first off, sorry for the delay. But sorry, technical issues abound. But hi, hey everyone. Welcome to the panel that I'm hosting, basically called Frontlines and You. So first off, hello. I am NoItemsEver. I am a Lollapel VTuber, as you may see right now. And I'm going to be basically running this panel. Just want to talk about Frontlines in a pretty fair way. I really like Frontlines a lot, and I want to talk about it, especially because a lot more people are playing it now due to events and the PvP change. So I figured, why not talk about it and just make a panel and just kind of discuss it, not only from like a general like introduction to Frontlines, but also a like a more in-depth look into some of the stuff that goes into a Frontlines match. So basically, we're going to be hosting this panel. Let me get this all set. Go over to my little slideshow. Sorry about the delay, a lot of technical hiccups on this end. But yes. Hello, so welcome to the panel. It is called Frontlines and You. I wanted to make it more like one of those educational type of things just to discuss it, so the title just kind of came to me. So we're going to talk about Frontlines. So what is Frontlines? So it's a PvP mode that can be queued in separately or can be done through the daily challenge roulette, which we call it a roulette, but in reality is you're playing the one map that cycles out per day, which we'll get to. It requires a Disciple of War or Magic job. It has to be at least level 30 and needs to be enrolled in a grand company. This is kind of basic stuff. It's really easy to jump into PvP for this game, especially because of the increase for EXP, especially up to level 50, so level 30 is even easier. Or you can just literally unlock jobs like Red Mage, Samurai, all those ones will be all good to go and start playing from there. You can queue in with a preformed party of 4, so if you want to play with your friends, you're able to. It used to be 8 people, but they cut it down to 4. We'll talk about it as it kind of goes on, but it's cool to still be able to queue in with your friends with this mode. It's basically a 72-player full-scale PvP mode. 3 teams of 24. So there's 3 different opposing teams, and with it, there's 3 alliances of 24 people. So it rotates every single day. As we just mentioned earlier, there's 3 maps currently. There was a 4th one that is being reworked, so we're just kind of waiting for that to happen. And all the jobs, if you're used to PvE, shift completely into PvP. Many jobs play completely different. The concept's the same, but your skill set is completely different. You'll be losing a couple of things, but also gaining a couple new stuff too, which lately with the Endwalker redesign for PvP, it made it a lot more fun and more interesting. A lot more stuff's more diverse now. So why should you play Frontlines? So you get exclusive rewards through titles, glamours, mounts. Right now, this is an old photo. I'm a Lollapel now, but this is back when I was my Catboy. This is the Seal Rock like coat for winning 100 wins. I also have the gloves and the boots. The coat is like the big thing that a lot of people do in one of the modes. You have to win 100 wins, and I think it's like 5, 10, 25, 50, I think is how it's broken up to get rewards. You actually get the entire set. I'm not wearing the whole set because the headpiece is a little wild, but it's very cool. You unlock wolf marks, which you can get glamour, mounts, emotes that are exclusive to PvP. You can also get general items like glamour prisms, gray dark matter, squadron ration manuals, which is great if you're just like trying to grind for stuff and you want to have like more food buffs if you're not in the FC or anything like that. You get EXP for your current jobs and tomes for like fully leveled ones. So if you're playing a job, you get a huge amount of EXP for just doing the roulette, but you also get like a pretty okay amount just for doing it, queuing in on your own. And if you're fully leveled up, you get tomes. Actually, a really good way to grind for tomes is doing stuff like Frontlines or Crystalline Conflict. You get Seer's EXP for the like PvP Pass, which is basically like the Battle Pass equivalent. Which they call it like the series thing with it, but basically every series there's a bunch of new items, and you get points based on how you place. You'll get points regardless of how it goes, but this will definitely help you out by winning more. Um, Frontlines is just a very casual mode. It is the gateway of jumping into PvP, in my opinion. I did the exact same back when I started playing during Stormblood, but it's a very easy thing to just kind of jump into and enjoy. And as being a gateway, it serves a great way for trying out Crystalline Conflict, which is also, if you're doing casual mode with that, it's very fun. It's very cool and very easy, but I know some people get a little pressured because it's like 5v5, so your weight definitely shows a lot more in Crystalline Conflict than it does in Frontline, so a lot of people are kind of nervous about that. Or Rival Wings, which is fantastic. That mode's awesome. It's currently running right now, all done through PvP Revival, which is really cool. So getting used to Frontlines, like, what should you expect? So it's an alliance chat, like, of 23 other people, just like an alliance raid. Because it's so mixed, you will find people of all different skill levels. You'll find people who are like, I only play this game like once. I only play Frontlines like once a week. I queue this thing every single day. So you'll find people who are experienced in Frontlines, but you also find people who are experienced in PvP in general, like people who are top ranked in Feast, people who are top ranked in CC, all like to play it just because it's something casual and fun to do. It's just a nice little break. And the queues are always active, which is great. The only times I think they're not active is like super early in the morning, but pretty much like even before prime time, like even like 3 o'clock in the day, depending where you are, the matches are going on. The job actions are extremely different, as stated before, so you will have to get used to that. It is a very big shift going in from there, but like when you learn it and you kind of understand the merits of how the changes are very cool, because currently in the raid level stuff, a lot of people are comparing like how jobs are kind of the same. In PvP, jobs can be not far as possible. Like, they are so different. Like, you take a Gunbreaker and you take a Paladin, you put them together, they are totally different. Two sides of the whole spectrum. And as you keep playing Frontlines, you get better and you start to understand your job. So even if you're like doing something where you're not really too sure, the more you play it, the more you'll start to understand it. It's very comfy and easy to do. And at the end of the day, it's just for fun. You know, I think that's the most important thing. You're here to have fun. You're not... that every bonus you get is just a benefit, but the majority is what we're doing is having fun. So, quick breakdown, basically, of the jobs, essentially how they work. This is mostly from a Frontlines perspective. Do not take this full into, like, Crystalline Conflict. Probably applies more to Rival Wings based on how many people there are, because this is made more for, like, mass groups of people. But, tanks are the bulkiest jobs, and they basically have options to CC, which is a key word in PvP community, but it's basically crowd control. Essentially, CCing is basically stopping someone else from doing something, whether it be through silence, stun, knockback, etc., so other people can attack. Tanks generally are the ones who are taking most of the front by jumping in and basically directing attention to them, almost like a PvE equivalent. And they need healing and support, but some tanks can actually pull it out pretty well. But obviously, shields and all the buffs really help them out, because they are going to be super annoying, which is the whole point of the tank, in a nutshell. Healers generally are pretty much the same. The healing options are definitely more limited compared to what they are in PvE, but they're more so providing buffs. Some, like Scholar, can do insane damage through dots just on the enemies overall. It's pretty nuts. They're usually seen as the first target to kill, just because they have the lowest health pool, I'm pretty sure, even now. But, they are really high. As they keep going, they get more powerful. So, as the battle height keeps rising, Scholars are super strong. Actually, every healer is pretty strong. White Mage is nuts once it goes full wild. So melee are the second bulkiest jobs. They are basically like tanks on their own. Melees can survive a lot, but that's because they have to go in. The only way they're really going in is to do damage. Some of them, like Dragoon and Ninja, can kind of hit from far away depending on the situation, but the majority is that you're going to have to go in, you're going to have to fight, which is why their health is a little bit higher. They can take more damage. They're really powerful in Frontlines. I want to say this now. Melee can do a crap ton of damage in Frontlines, especially Reaper and Dragoon for sure. Those are probably the two biggest ones, just especially the Dragoon LB is like insane. But every melee also has an escape option, which is good because you don't want to be stuck in there. Some are like Shukichi, which are like teleports for ninjas. The Reaper has their own little portal thing that they drop behind, and then Samurai has a gap closer, which you can use to go to another thing. Monk also has its gap closer, which you can go to other party members too, which is really cool. So they can either do that to escape or to be offensive. Ranged are the second squishiest job. They're pretty much made to just attack from a distance as you're ranged, but they also have a bunch of disruption. Bard has a really good silence, and can provide just casual party or passive party buffs to people on there. Machinist also has the turret, which provides a defensive buff with it too, but also a debuff on the enemies. And Dancer just has a lot of like personal stuff with it too that supports the party member and the group in general. They generally have AoE skills. We're going to get into AoE later on, kind of a bit more of a detail, but they really get a lot of assists. So that assist essentially helps you out with getting more battle high, which we'll also talk about too. But the most important thing is just play what you like. I cannot stress this enough. Playing what you like is the most important thing to do in Frontlines because you want to play something that you enjoy. All right. So I want to get into some attitudes or some do's and don'ts of Frontlines because this is a big team based event that you're doing. So obviously there's good things to do, there's bad things to do. So on the good side, obviously just keeping a good attitude is probably the most important thing you can do. Just being supportive, being we can do this, it's fine, we'll get through it. Or just trying your best is a very big part of it. Helping out each other, using your toolkit to help out others. Obviously, some things we kind of forget about, sometimes dance partner, Cardia for sages can be lost on us, but just try to remember putting that on is always good. But also just the passive party buffs for healers. Paladin using the gap closer shield to help out a party member is being dogged on is always a really good option too. It's really supporting each other. Even if someone's not in your party, it's good to provide a support. If you have a stun and they're being chased, just go over and stun it because it's going to help them out. They'll be thankful. And that's the kind of stuff that we really just want to see. It's just good attitudes of people helping out each other. Sometimes people unfortunately get in bad situations, not on their own, but just because the game flows that way that a node goes over and someone gets lost in the midst. So helping them out is always good. Callouts, which we're going to be talking about later on too, are really good. Pointing those out, pointing out key objectives that are going on is going to help out your team a lot. Even if not everyone gets a chance to read them, eventually people will understand just based on where everyone's going. And then flagging macro directions, telling people basically where to go is really helpful, especially on people in console who don't get the options to click those flags or do all that stuff. They're good. And obviously there's bad stuff too. I just want to note you're in a big group chat with a bunch of people, so there's obviously going to be a lot of stuff. Bad attitudes is probably the most important thing I would say on here. If you're kind of just I don't give a crap about it, and you kind of state that overall, people are going to read that, and people are just going to be well, I know this person isn't trying, and then, eventually it kind of gets to a point where people just don't care, and they're just whatever. Which, a whatever attitude can be, okay kind of by the end of it, but, if you're setting the tone by doing that, it's not a good sign. Obviously, arguing in chat, flaming, griefing, it's not so often now because they're the kicking options are great, but a lot of people would just run into a wall just to get the EXP or just say, I'm just here for the EXP. That's always a big one that a lot of people is just well, we need the person here to help us out. So if you're just going to do the EXP, you may want to consider another outlet potentially because you're hearing that. And, just being a sore sport, the game is a game. Just, there's always next time, It's no point to be angry over stuff like that. So basically the basics of Frontlines, just go through fast. It's all based on points. Whoever gets the most points by completing whoever gets the most points wins. You get those by completing the main objective, but you also get them through kills. Battle High, which is a very big thing, is basically it's a player-specific gauge that fills up 0 to 100, and through getting kills, which you get 10 points for every kill, or 2 points for every assist, it has 5 levels for every point. So basically, when you hit 20, you get your first gauge. You hit 40, you get your second, 60, 80, 100. And it gives you increased damage that you deal out. It also increases the amount of HP restored. This is why tanks and healers can be very, very strong if they get that up. Melee especially too, but I would definitely say healers are some of the craziest because a healer can just literally heal it all off and be okay. And tanks can just go in. Those two together, healers and tanks, will drive you nuts trying to kill them if they get like full battle high. Especially if they're a dark. Limit breaks are unique to each player and can be used freely. They're all different. You can do them on your own. Mounts are allowed and they have really fast movement speed. So again, feel free to use your mounts. You can run, but depending on the situation, you just kind of want to use a mount instead. And then rewards are earned based on team placement. And the better you do, the more points you get. So we're going to talk about some modes of Frontlines. So I only put in the 3 modes for this. One of them is missing. Rest in peace, Secure, until you come back. But we're just going to talk about the Danshin Nadam Onslaught here. So it's a mode that basically multiple nodes spawn on the map, and each team tries to capture them as they provide points over time. Each node has a specific rank, which determines the amount of points you get. So there's lowest to highest, blue, red, gold. Usually, most people just say the color. I know some people go by the letter, which helps out too, but I think most people just read color and they're like, I don't understand the classification, but I'll just go by gold. Once a node is claimed, it cannot be reclaimed. Once it's capped, it's done. That's important to note. There's a mode coming up that you can reclaim the node, but in Onslaught, just know once it's capped, you're done. That's it. Team with the 1,300 points first becomes the winner, and the map is the smallest in the Frontline modes. I'd say it's smaller than Shatter at the moment. I could be wrong, but it feels much smaller. So it allows for constant fighting and retreating. You're going to be always doing something on this map, which is really fun. And then we got Seal Rock, which is seized. This is a mode in which multiple nodes spawn, kind of like the one we just described, which is no shocker because Onslaught was created later. It also has specific ranking, so it helps that those two are very similar because you understand concepts are... A general idea of what you're doing is similar, but there are differences. So the nodes can be reclaimed. So this has more of a King of the Hill style where your team's defending a node until it's done, and then you basically bounce. And as the time gets on, this also applies to Onslaught, less nodes spawn, meaning that the amount of options you get are limited. So you are forced to either defend your area or start advancing into another. It is the only remaining mode from Heavensward that has not been altered. And I'm going to say that because Shatter has come back and it's much smaller. This mode has not changed at all from that. It is still huge. So it's much more grandiose than the other ones, but it's really cool because bigger maps lead to some like cool one-on-one encounters, which are really sick. And it's a lot of fun. And the first team that reaches 700 points first is the winner. And then we're looking over at Shatter. This is an old photo of Shatter. I couldn't really find one of the current one. My apologies. So Shatter is different as it's a mode in which we destroy large pieces of ice to earn points. The more damage the team does, the more points earned. And the ice can either be small or big. Small ice has a cap, a total of 50 points, and big has a total of 300. Small ice spawns constantly through the match. In player bases, like there's 2 of them that usually spawn by the player bases, and 1 in the center field. The large ice only spawns at north, south, east, or southeast, southwest, or the middle. So the options for the big ice are limited. And then there are ramps for each non-melee area for the big ice, allowing players to go down to retreat freely to a big ice that spawns near their base. So anytime that you're like near base, there's a chance that you'll have an ice that spawns that will lead directly to your spot, giving you an advantage because it gives you a free way in, gives you a free way out. This mode is more of like seen as like a PvE kind of mode, and I know we joke around a bit, but the real interaction is the players. As the players focus on the ice, that's kind of where the PvP aspect comes in, because now you're starting to be like, all right, well, I want to take you down while you're taking care of this thing, and then that's when fights start to happen. That's the cool stuff. The ice breaking objective, personally to me, I'm not a big fan of. It's more so, everyone's here, let's go, to me. Okay, so we're going to talk about calling. So callers are people in frontline matches who tell your team where to go. If you look at party chat or alliance chat, they usually have someone saying like a direction or something, or explaining an objective, like focus this, focus that. That's a caller. They help out with pointing the objectives for the team, but they can also give awareness if a pinch is incoming. We're going to talk about those soon enough. Or if your team needs to pinch to call another team. So A caller, a really good part about them is that they'll focus on where the match is right now. They usually look at a bunch of stuff to understand this is what we need to do. Multiple people try calling also. Like, there are some matches where you may see like 4 to 5 people calling stuff, but try to pay attention to the stuff that works. Some people will, like, early on, you'll see good results equal good calls. So if someone does something and you succeed and you get the node and you get a lot of points, that's usually a good sign that that's a good call. So following that person is a good advice if you're not too sure. But it's always different every single match. Sometimes people may not even call at all, so you kind of have to just play it by ear. Caller and team communication really can turn the game around, and it'll help your team game the flow of a match and ride it. So a good caller can literally push your team from nothing to something, as long as the players are willing to work with that. This is where we start getting into the nitty-gritty about Frontlines. So now we're going to talk about the map. So the map is your most powerful tool in Frontlines. It gives you information on current objective, timer, and duration, essentially. You'll be able to see, I don't have it on here, but essentially if you scroll over one of these, it'll tell you how long like a node duration is. This is on sol, so the modes are already capped. So this is just telling you this team has earned this one, this team has earned this one, and these ones have not been claimed yet. So that's essentially what our team is doing. We're on Maelstrom in this situation. It gives you a full party member location list. So any of the blue ones are your party. Any of the green ones are the alliance, and the other colors, which will either be yellow, blue, or red, determine the other team. It also gives you the positioning for where nodes are, which is great because these ones are already spawned, but there'll be a situation where one is going to spawn, so you can already make out your next move. Or it'll tell you, if this is going to spawn here, we may potentially get pinched. That's also a big part of it, too. Flagging, which is doing control right-click if you're on mouse. I don't know the command for PS or for console or controller, I'm sorry. But or writing just a general location in that case, which is like big node southwest, which essentially would be like down over here. That helps people understand where to go. And not everyone may have their chat open, but at least that's the type of stuff that pushes people in the right direction. The flagging really helps out a lot because it'll just leave you like it'll point you right to where it is on the map. The southwest direction you kind of have to look for to sort of get, but if players are following it, you know, usually herd mentality is best. Just follow the group. So now we're starting to get into more like caller related stuff. This is just tools that will help you out overall, even if you don't decide to become a caller or do anything like that. But essentially reading a map is your most crucial tool. So this match basically just started. So to give you an idea, you have to look at where the spawns are. This is immediately right when the match starts before any nodes are going off. This is the direction. So already, let's ask the first question. How quickly can we get to these nodes? Well, these nodes are right by base. So let's say that we get these two because we're going to have them right over there. This team is right by these two, and this one. So there's a solid chance that they can get all these three. This team can go in wherever they want. They can literally go right in through mid, or they can go on bridge and push. So if this team is going down here and then they decide to take over this node, this team's going to have the advantage because this team's going to go whoop, boom. In the middle, it'll be pretty much fine. It's really dependent on what the other team kind of does, but if we look at common sense to understand, we should probably get the nodes closest. Red and blue would have a conflict here, for sure. And yellow would probably reap the most rewards just by hanging out and doing nothing and just capping. And they could maybe pinch blue if they wanted. They probably won't pinch red just because of how far away it is, but it's an easier thing. So in other situations, you just have to ask, which team's in first, which we're going to get into, but the who's leading mentality of who's in first is really going to help you out with understanding what plays to kind of make and where to really go. Enemy awareness, where are the other teams? So on this map right here, you see these little things where it's telling where these people are. This is so crucial information to understand because by doing that, you'll know where the other team is, so you can actually plan it out. Can we get the node reliably without being disrupted? Well, just as I was saying before, if we know this team's going to go here, we know this team's going to go here. These two, this one for sure should be pretty reliable. This one may have a conflict with blue, but otherwise it should be pretty okay. Is it worth going that far to get that node? Well, we're not going to be getting that one because of this going on. Most likely we'll get like hit by yellow. So I don't think it's worth it. But also, if it's like right here and it's like a big rank node, then yeah, obviously we can get this one reliably. It's right by spawn. Can we escape if we get pinched? That's always a good thing. Escaping is always a great option. So in that situation where yellow is pinching blue, we should have a way out south. And just practice and repetition really help with more on-the-fly thinking for it all. So more maps, just showing you some examples. So in this case, red has taken over this entire side. Blue is right down here. We are yellow, so we have nothing. So in this situation, we're always going to be fighting blue because blue is right here. Red can do whatever they want. They can pinch, they can stay. But for us, we're pretty much going to be fighting blue. So the majority for this should be taking them out and kind of pushing them over. And in this one, we have a node right here, but then there's a red and a blue up here. It's not really worth it to get that one just based on where everyone is right now. Realistically, the smarter option would be to go down this way and hit red. Just based on where everyone is. We could go to blue in that, but right now everyone's kind of down here, so it's probably smarter to just go over here and get that one, because we're all there. Because time is important. So we're going to talk about the teams. So first place is currently in the lead. First place can usually play smart and focus on minor objectives if they're in a comfortable spot. Like if they're like 200 to 300 points ahead, first place can usually take less risks to kind of do stuff. They're going to be the main target for second and third, and both if they're unified. So both second and third understand that first place needs to be stopped. First place is #1 target. If they're extremely close to second or third, you do have to advance. And a lot of people rest on their laurels and say let them fight. No, you have to push unless you're like extremely far ahead, and then you're still pushing, but you're playing very, very safe. Second place is obviously trying to take down first place. Second place will usually base all their actions on stopping first. So if they really want to block first place from getting a node or getting a point, this can involve like going into their base and taking a node, or actively hunting their people specifically for like pinches and stuff like that. And third place is the wild card. Third place is the craziest one in this entire Frontlines like event. Whenever you play a match, third place can either win you the game or they can lose you it, because they gain the most from pinching while both teams are fighting. But third place will almost always decide who it is just based on the grounds. They can attack whoever they want because they have 0 risk. If you're in last place, everything you gain is a boon. There's a lot of YOLO stuff with it because you can do a lot. So just remember, like, if you're in third place and it's like pretty far behind, you have a lot. And specifically, if you're by a huge margin you're behind, you can really just pick whoever you want that don't win. It's usually the team that kind of crushes you. A lot of people are just like, we don't like them, so we're going to go and stop them, essentially. So pinches. We talked about it. What is it? So pinches are focused attacks by a third party while 2 teams are engaged in fights. The pinches can cause your team to get thrown off balance and be farmed for kills because it's a whole other unit you didn't even expect. Or you may have expected, you just didn't plan for it proper. If it's in a bad spot, it's usually best to flee. Like, running away in Frontlines is a very good tactic. It really is smart to just disengage and regroup. Fighting in that spot, you are just going to get everyone killed. You're going to respond with like almost nothing, and then the other team's going to gain advantage because you are in a bad spot. Alternatively, you can use pinches to advance your team or to call a team that has a ton of battle high. As I said, battle high gives a huge boost, so it's best to take down those people that have a lot of battle high. A failed pinch, at best, can give you a free escape and a couple kills. At worst, it can completely decimate your team, because if both teams turn on you, you're pretty much done. And if you try a pinch and it fails, you'll get a couple kills, and you'll still gain an advantage in some kind of way. So, pinches by your base give you prime pickings, and using invul from base can help you give an edge to help clear it out. Obviously, like in that situation from before where red kind of had the left side and blue is right by our base, if red pinched blue, we would have gotten the most out of it, because we could have just kept hitting blue. Blue's right by our spawn. We'll just take him down and regroup. All right, so working together. There's pre-made teams, which we talked about because people can queue in together of 4, can work together, and they provide a lot of synergy for each other. They cover each other's faults. Battle high enemies always should be a priority with them, because the more and more they gain like battle high, the more powerful they're going to be, and they're also going to lead those assists to get for other people. And then jobs like Dark Knight and Summoner have some crazy pull-in binding skills, especially Dark Knight. Dark Knight's insane. That when combined with powerful AoE, like Dragoon, LB, Dark Knight LB, Gunbreaker LB, White Mage LB, anything that does like a crap ton of AoE damage, it's insane. That stuff racks up because everyone's already like disjointed. They may have already used their purifies or something like that instead to try to get out of it. But yeah, buffing up your melee or tanks so they can have more focus by your main target makes it lit, makes you more easily get distracted or get kills because they're distracted. So essentially, by boosting your melee and tanks, all the direction is focused towards them, so your other ranged or anyone else can pick them off and do that with it. Using your support skills to CC players coming for your team also allows you to get scream crazy kills. That's one really good way to take care of Dark Knights that are trying to plunge and do the LB. It helps out with samurais who are trying to do the counter kill move. If you keep CCing them, they don't even have a chance to react to it. This is really important. If a node hasn't been capped yet, keeping a node in play to stall the game is a great way to advance your game, or to block other players from advancing theirs. So because AoE is so limited, and for some jobs like Gunbreaker, it's tied to the LB, or like on a cooldown that lasts like 30 seconds, it's always good to have that because it'll help keep the game in play, so the person has to interact with the node and cap it. The more disruption that's happening in the middle of the arena, the more of a chance you can build up a strategy, or you're basically stalling if you're in the lead to be like, well, you can't get this because we're already here. So, and if you cap the node, awesome. If not, I mean, you're preventing everyone else from getting it. So that's the big draw. Time awareness is very important. So because node placement, spawn times, and point generation, and the in-game timer, some matches, depending on where they are, can just generally decide by then. It's like, for example, if you're 200 points and the goal is 800 and both teams are like 750, it does not matter what you do. Like, you're probably not going to win because literally based on time alone, you won't be able to at that point in the game. So it at least kind of gives you an idea on what where we kind of should be at each point. Focusing on gaining battle highs is really good for the beginning of a match because they help you hold your own by the end of the game. Especially when nodes are before they're spawning, like right when the match starts, because that's usually the first interaction any people have in a match. So it helps you out a ton to just kill and gain an early advantage. So to flee from a claimed node, or when a node's about to expire, is super important. You have to learn that your time is important. And fighting over something when it's already just done or it's just about to be done, you need to move and get into another spot. That's why reading the chat and understanding like we're doing this or focusing on this to move from this is really important, because the time spent going to a new location and getting more kills there is going to be better than staying at one spot, getting farmed, and losing all that. Because every time you die, you lose points. So, time put into small objectives, 1 kill versus big objectives. This really is more subjective, but like if you're spending like, I don't know, a minute trying to kill one dude with like 3 people versus like a main objective, like a node where you can get a bunch more, that's usually a better idea to focus on that. There are some situations where you do have 1v1s, which are really fun. Are they cost effective? No. Unless it's like just 1-on-1 person, then it's okay. Otherwise, that's what old Secure was really good for. But right now, I think Seal Rock's really the only one you can kind of do that on the big level. So it's good to just focus on the big kills because you're going to get more assists, even if you don't get the kill, which will help you out overall. And then last minute pushes can factor in your result in the game. You cannot play passive when you're not first. Then we're going to go into pinging. Pinging happens a lot with like the macros where a sound effect will kind of play. This gives players a chance to start moving to the next node or preparing for a pinch. Macros are really powerful because you can just display where you want to go. Alerts and sounds also help too. A lot of them are like danger bongos or warnings to let you know if a pinch is happening or let you know where a new location we should be going is. Just try to avoid using them like too often because some people are shocked when they hear the sounds playing on repeat, and sometimes it can be like a garbled mess. Marker positioning is super important. Just follow the leader or key location group spots. If a person's like setting the markers, it usually happens more in JP side where they'll put a marker to lead you to the next location. That's really smart. If you can do that, awesome. But if not, just pay attention to those spots and just look for them. It's more important than like the old chatter. So obviously generalized location names like mid, southwest, north, base, and then Onsal has some where it's bridge, or Seal Rock has caves and beach. That's essentially what I wanted to do, because I realized my stuff was a bit delayed because of stream setup, so I apologize. If you're looking for more information kind of on it, PvP Revival is a fantastic place. It's a huge resource for PvP content in FF14. They do Rival Wings, which is also a fantastic mode. If you haven't done that, that's currently going on because of the Moogle Tome event. I highly recommend queuing up for Rival Wings if you can. Give them support they need. We need the roulette at some point. It's huge Discord for that. Thank you, LunarCon staff, for making all this possible. But really, thank you folks. Even if you came out to this, apologize for the delay. Just watching it, I appreciate it a ton, because it's the type of stuff that makes matches and Frontlines fun. If you came out of this and you're like, I kind of want to queue up, maybe I'll queue up Frontlines at some point. That's all that matters, man. Like that's the world to us in like the PvP community, even the casual side. And if you work your way up to doing something like CC, like Crystalline Conflict, or you do just Rival Wings, it's a great way. That's how I started too. I mean, I was a Feast Top 100 one season, and I like playing CC. I haven't played it as much, but I love playing Frontlines just because it's something that you can just kind of go in and do whenever you want. So, and if you want to follow me, I am on Twitch, twitch.tv/NoItemsEver. I do Frontlines pretty much every time I stream FF14. I also do raiding, fishing, lots of cool stuff like that. So if you're interested in all that, by all means, give a follow. Thank you everyone for LunarCon for giving me this opportunity. I'm sorry that the stream was a bit delayed on this end. I had to rush up stuff that I want to talk more about because I was like 5 minutes late. So my apologies on that. But I hope you guys had a great time watching. I really appreciate it a ton. I hope that if you're on the Crystal Data Center, if you see me on Frontlines, say hi. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the panel, let me know too. I would hope to make one a little bit better next time with a little more time. So by all means, I will see you guys on the front lines. Take care and have a good night.